The UK budget is coming up on Wednesday, okay? And I've been asked an awful lot, what am I doing with my cryptocurrency holdings and all my investments during this time of uncertainty? I am also going to cover the US proposals for something and also Denmark, but this could be applied for any country. So it's not just in the UK, but if you're interested in hearing my take on what's happened, because I've got a big UK demographic, it'll be very, very interesting to watch. So let's unpack this one. So here we are. Wednesday, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, will present the budget to Parliament. This is a massive one because it's the first time in over a decade that Labour are in power. And they've been talking about this massive hole in the debt wall or whatever, I don't know what you call it these days. There's a big hole in it and they want to try and recoup it. And one of the obvious ones is let's tackle the rich, let's tackle the investors, the working class, working person. What? Let's talk about that. So if you are living under a rock or if you're not from the UK, we do a thing every single God knows how long, usually twice a year, we do budgets and it's like, oh, we're going to change this to fill the numbers, we're going to make more money through the... It's annoying, right? But we need to delve into the obvious, right? For me, personal opinion, not political, I think taxes suck, let's be honest. But what annoys me by living in the UK, and I know in the comments, let me know what you think on this, it would be nice if they actually, did something with the money that they received. That's all I'm going to say. Healthcare on its arse. The train system on its arse. There's more potholes in the road than there is tarmac these days. It's not good. It really isn't good. Like, people in the UK don't have a pot to piss in. And it's very, very alarming, right? So let me know in the comments what you think. But let's talk about the obvious here. Now, the first thing I've just mentioned was working people. And there's been an absolute, complete and utter disaster here. So basically, the why I'm talking about this is because it's you. You are this person, technically, right? Because the way that they talk about the working person, they're basically stating, it's baffling this, it really is, that if you have assets, if you have shares, if you, say, have property, you are not a working person. You are, basically, you should be taxed more because you are wealthy. So you could be an electrician or a plumber and have an extra property and you're earning some sort of rental income. That is you. You are, you should be punished. You should have higher tax laws because you can afford it. Same with cryptocurrency assets, same with stocks and shares, right? And I find it baffling. And, he admits he has some shares which described as insignificant, but he works 14 days on a market stock and does not consider those shares capable of rendering him ineligible to fit the description by Keir Starmer. And this is the thing, in terms of how he talks about it, Keir Starmer's talking about the fact that you as a working person should be like basically living paycheck to paycheck. You are grafting your bollocks off. And you cannot afford to invest. You cannot afford to have a second house. You cannot afford to even have, any sort of wealth. And you should be then, therefore, punished if you do. It's mad. Really is. So let's talk about the little elephant in the room. So in the UK, we've changed stuff an awful lot. And that's the beauty of this video, really. We're going to talk about the mindset of the unknown. And this is where we're going to get into it. Because most of the stuff that we see in the market is noise, right? We are now currently speculating that maybe the budget is going to give us like a ridiculous amount of capital gains tax, or they're going to abolish something, or they're going to add new tax rates and increase this, that and the other, and it's going to punish us, right? The reality is here, we don't know yet. But let's talk about the past, and this is important. We have seen the capital gains tax in the UK especially drop from 28% down to 20% and 18% down to 10% in 2016. Big, important year. Now, going through time, you'd probably say 20% and 10% is pretty good. But the speculation is that's going to change drastically, potentially, right? Again, it's all if, buts, maybes. Donkey! However, when we talk about thresholds, this has majorly changed by the prior government, obviously. 12,300 used to be, a long time ago now, it feels like it, what you could have for free. You could earn that for free. It doesn't matter if it was stocks and shares, if it was crypto or whatever, right? You could have that for free, and then you're taxed anything above that. That is now £3,000. I think, personally, that will be completely scrapped and will have zero. No relief at all. Because it's gone from 6,000 down to 3,000. The exact same thing has happened with dividend tax, right? Again, this is a little bit different, but we're talking about wealth creation tax here, where if you're a company owner, a sole director, you could be, realistically, an investor using a limited company as your backing, essentially. If you want to, you don't have to, right? But that could apply to you, right? And when we talk about this, back in the day, it was up to £5,000 for free. And, you know, as a basic tax rate payer, and if you were on a limited company, you would put yourself in the basic rate tax because it was obvious, and the rest of your salary would be made up with dividends. That was the obvious way. Now it's £500. £500 that you can have as tax-free dividends. Wow, that's awful. So it's changed a lot. And yeah, it's probably pointless now doing dividends because you're just going to get paid ridiculous amount. And if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you know, you're kind of buggered really, because let's be honest, 32% on most business directors are on the higher rate pay as well most of the time if you are doing well. Usually, if you're doing well. It's absolute bonkers. But yeah, I hope that gives you an idea that these governments, no matter what country you're in, they change stuff, and you have to be alert to that, realistically. Now, I want to talk about something related to, obviously, latest data around the UK and how money is used. The UK, we're shit at investing. I think we're the lowest in Europe in terms of investment. And I'm going to talk about a tweet that I wrote yesterday about it. And we've got to talk about the obvious here. And the first number that sticks in my mind here is there's £1.5 trillion in cash savings. Mental, right? But when you look at this, it's over 1.1 trillion held in taxable accounts and accessible savings account without tax benefits. I think the UK are just terrible, as I say, at investing, and they don't use ISAs. I'll come on to ISAs in a minute, because most people don't use them. I think it's only 6% of people use ISAs, right? Which is boggling, right? But as you can imagine, people just like, you know, put money. Cash is security, cash is safety, and we talk about cryptocurrency, and we talk about how inflation's a bugger, and ultimately you need to invest and make your money work to hopefully grow wealth and become wealthy over time. That's the obvious element of investing. But in the UK, it's a polar opposite. It really, really is. But as we go back to it, we have what if this happened, right? Again, if, buts, maybes, and stuff like that. The reality is here, I do think this is wide of the mark. There was an article that came out not too long ago from, I think, The Guardian, stating they've done a financial model between 33% and 39%. It would not shock me in the slightest if this does hike, though, from 20% up to 30%. For example, right? That's my opinion. Not any sort of knowledge there at all, just a guess. But it sounds logical in terms of what they're saying, in terms of what they've been stating about the working person and why they would want to basically make the rich pay a bit more, and if you're wealthy. But realistically, right, we as an individual, as a cryptocurrency degenerate gambler, we want to take that risk to make more money, right? Why should we pay a lot more tax when realistically they're just going to gobble it up anyways and put it into probably nothing, or prawn sandwiches on a latest party that they tend to do? But anyways, as we go on, right, let's talk about the obvious. This tweet, this is what I kind of came up with the other day when I was just sitting there thinking, and I thought I'd look into the data. 6% of UK adults have a stocks and shares ISA. In the other countries, such as America and other European countries and stuff like that, they do have a much higher percentage of people who invest in a tax-efficient account. And I think this is what's going to be very interesting to watch. I think we might see figures go up massively in ISAs. But what if they cap this? What about if they change this? What if? I know, imagine. And I wonder if, as I say, capital gains tax does go up and we get some sort of change with ISAs. Scary thought, I know. But this should, if you're watching this, force you to think about how you invest. It doesn't mean react to it beforehand, and we're going to talk about what I'm going to do in a minute. But if you want more data, there's a really good website called finder.com, and it's all about the UK ISAs in terms of how it kind of works and why you should probably have one, because anything that you get as gains, anything you get as dividends is totally free. Up to £20,000 per year you can put in this. That's a huge amount. But you can see here, a lot of people are planning to open up a lot more. they're probably forced into it. Let's be honest here. And I have my stocks and shares ISA fully full in terms of allocation that I can do, but I would love to do more. I just can't. It's annoying because it's a limit, right? The reality is here, as a cryptocurrency investor, as a stocks and shares holder, whatever it may be, you may well be getting punished here because the country's broke. Now, I did promise we will talk about other countries. Denmark mulls over taxing unrealized crypto profits beginning in 2026. Now, this again is a proposal. This does not mean shit yourself and sell all your stuff. But if this is passed, this could be a huge thing in Denmark. And we're talking Genesis side of it as well, in terms of like, we are genuinely looking to go back from Genesis in terms of unrealized taxes from the decades ago, right? Literally. And as I say, it's just a proposal. But it's kind of scary that these kind of brainwave thoughts are in the mindset of people running countries, because it's an investment, right? Realistically, right? Remember a week ago, one of the ECB advisors came out saying we should eliminate Bitcoin. We should stop it from its growth. And that's like, okay. And now we're getting tax situations coming out. Are they just going to tax us to death? Maybe. But that's where we need to be very, very careful in terms of what we do. But ultimately, we need to react when it happens, not before it happens, because that is a little bit silly. Again, we talk about the US as well, because Harris, hello, you are maybe planning to do an unrealized investment gains tax, which is going to hit the wealthiest of Americans. Now, this is a proposal to basically tax unrealized gains, essentially, right? Which doesn't sound great, but when you think about America, they are the absolute juggernaut in terms of investing. Their market is much bigger than everyone else's. The UK market's very small. The Chinese market's a bit up and down at the minute. The Japanese one crashed. And then you've got the US one, which has got the biggest tech stocks in the world. There'll be a lot of wealth sitting there, and it's absolutely mental, and it's known as a billionaire minimum tax, which is mental, right? And when we talk about this, it's just the gateway, really, let's be honest, because this could realistically just creep further and further down the pyramid, and it's going to absolutely capture everyone, which is scary. So it brings me back to the question, what am I going to do? Well, nothing. I'm not going to do anything. In my opinion, I think it's really silly to react before stuff has happened. There may well be a situation where in the UK budget or in America or Denmark that proposals are put in place to tax, and it will go live at a certain point. But there's no point flapping over it. And yes, I could in the UK buy back in 30 days time or whatever, but what if the market moves before then and I've lost a load of units? There's no point, is there? If you're going to sell anything, you probably want to sell anything that's at a loss, so you can kind of harvest that return maybe in the future. But again, that's still very, very, very risky, right? So what I'm going to do is absolutely nothing. Oopsie, I gave him a spell. Nothing. Now, what I do state is you should have, at some point, a bit of knowledge on tax, right? Scary thought. Leave me a link in the comment, even a comment about what you think about tax. But ultimately, you should know that if you're an investor, you are paying tax, because there is, at the minute, in the US and the UK and all kinds of other countries, cryptocurrency exchanges that are in bed with the IRS, the HMRC, and other financial markets where they will communicate with the authorities. That is why people, I think, are going to get massively caught up in the emotions of this in probably a decade's time, when a lot of these potential changes in government are going to get focused onto like the cryptocurrency assets or stocks and shares, for example, because there will be a lot of people going, I'm not paying tax. Why should I do that? I take all the risk. There will be people like that. And there is in cryptocurrency all the time. That's just the way it is. Now, for me, as I say, you're better off just doing it. Personal opinion, right? Because it's much easier otherwise. But reacting to something that hasn't happened yet, you might lose. Reacting to potential unrealized gain stuff and thinking I'm never going to invest in crypto because it's not worth it anymore is just as dumb, in my opinion. But as I say, this video is more of a ramble. I've talked about this quite a lot on my Patreon Discord. Feel free to jump in about what could happen. There's lots of things that could happen, lots of things. But there could also be lots of things that happen next year and the year after. And then all of a sudden, everything just looks a bit crap, really. So you got to understand that you have to manage your portfolio very, very carefully. If you're in the UK or if you're in America, look at the tax efficiency ways of like putting money into something where you can put profit into a fund, what is essentially tax-free, and you can then hopefully over time that will grow and grow and grow, and you are not paying any tax. But as I say, what if that changes? Well, that could change. So yeah, you've got to be very, very careful. And we often talk about profit taking. You know, a lot of people say to me, well, if you don't take profit, you don't pay tax, which at its current state, that's absolutely spot on. But what if that changes? You know, it's absolutely scary when you think about it. So that is what I'm going to do. I know it's a bit of a rambly video and I wanted to get my thoughts out there because I've been asked quite a lot of time, especially on my Patreon about it and on my MMQs. What am I going to do? It's just one of those times at the minute. But yeah, I highly recommend you be careful though. So there we go. If you enjoyed this, let me know. Not the normal sort of video, but I think it's important to know how my thoughts are on certain things. At the end of the day though, you are in charge of your own destiny. If you want to invest, you invest. If you don't, you don't, right? But the reality is here, you need to keep up to date with what's happening.